Hi VC, Rob here with another video. This is a vinyl hauls video, so it's just 5 or 6 albums that I've picked up over the last week. I thought I'd share them with you. The first album that I'm going to show you, the album that I'm playing in the background, is by Osibisa. Now, a lot of the influence for me buying Osibisa is the vinyl community. You know, I'm kind of an indie rock guy. That's, you know, shoegazing, a bit of mod music, bit of soul. Never really been into kind of African music or even reggae really. But through seeing people like Steve Carlson, John the 6-inch pianist, they've kind of turned me on to reggae, funk and that kind of thing. So when I saw this in my local record shop, it's a self-titled album from 1971 by Osibisa. I was all over it. It's about £8, so the artwork's really striking. And does it look familiar to you? Because it's a guy called Roger Dean who did the artwork, and he's the same guy who does the artwork for a lot of the Yes albums and Uriah Heep. So, you know, that kind of attracted me as well. I'm like looking at that album thinking, you know, what's going on there? That looks pretty funky and way out. So I didn't have any hesitation buying it. Osibisa are 3 guys from Ghana who came over to England in 1964. They got kind of scholarship from the Ghanaian government, and in 1969 Osibisa were formed, and this album came out in 1971. It was kind of a hit in America as well. It got to like in the top 100 in America, nearly got in the top 10 in the UK, and they've released well over 20 albums, so there's plenty of things for me to get into there. And you know, it's kind of, I think they describe it as Afrobeat. To me it's kind of like African funk jazz, whatever you want to call it, but I really enjoy it. So yeah, that's thanks to the VC, Steve Carlson. Big thumbs up from me for this, getting me into this kind of stuff. So that's the first album that I picked up. And in the same shop, Rocks again in Rochdale, talking with a guy in there. It's really nice. It's like any record shop. You know, they'll stand and talk to you for hours, won't they? And it's you know, it's not too far from me, so it's a nice place to go. I picked up this Chic album. Now, you know, I like my disco. I always have done. In the you know, in the late 70s, when I was into the Police and the Jam and Blondie, you know, I was still into Donna Summer and Chic and things like that. Sheila B. Devotion, Spacer, that was a track I really loved. So, you know, I've always had a love of Chic, and I saw this album, and I've never seen it before. I'm looking at the tracks on it, and I've never really heard of any of the tracks either. It's just on the usual Atlantic label. He only wanted a £5 for it, so yeah, I was up for that. Came out in 1980. Wasn't released in America, funnily enough, and it's just more of the same really. Now Rogers, you know, doing his stuff, and yeah, you can't go wrong really. So yeah, I was happy to pick that up. Now on Sunday, in the summer in the UK we have car boot sales, but obviously in the winter, you know, no one wants to stand out in the rain and the freezing cold, just flogging the stuff off. But near me there's an indoor kind of flea market, and most Sundays I, you know, get up and have a walk around there. Vinyl, it's, you know, it's a bit thin on the ground, and everyone seems to be looking for vinyl anyway, and when there is any vinyl, it's snapped up very quickly, so you've got to get there very early. So I went down there on Sunday, and as I was walking in, the weather was quite fine, and there was a guy out there, and he had about 12 buckets of records. So I just walked past him, because I thought, well, he's going to be there in another half an hour. I'll go in the flea market and see if there's anything in there. So I walked around the flea market, picked up a couple of films, bits and pieces, but no vinyl. So I went and had a root in his bins, and this guy got chatting to him, and he he's kind of a bit of a dealer. He does markets. Funnily enough, he said he does a market in Lancaster from time to time. So I'm wondering if James Griffiths has stumbled upon him. His vinyl were pretty well priced and in good condition, so you know I was pretty happy having a route through those. And I stumbled upon this. Now it's a band called the Yachts. Now this came out in 1979, and 1979 was a period of time where nearly every record that came out, I knew about it. I was all over the music press. Even if you never had a hit, I kind of knew about it because I was just really into music in that period. And I love the album, the artwork. And I'm thinking, Yachts? I've never heard of the Yachts. So I asked the guy, and he said, "Oh yeah, they're a guitar band, new wavy." And I thought, well, by looking at the album, I could tell that. But I was really intrigued. So I thought, I wonder what condition it's in. So I pulled it out, and look what I saw. It's on Radar. And I'm thinking, Radar? There's two artists that come to mind when I think of Radar, and that is Elvis Costello and Nick Lowe. So I was all over this, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'll take that. So when I took it home and had a read up on the Yachts, I was amazed. They used to be called the Alberts, and the Alberts actually supported the Sex Pistols in 1976. So wow, so I was pretty amazed with that. And then I was reading that when the Yachts were formed, their first gig was supporting Elvis Costello. So I'm thinking, you supported Sex Pistols and you supported Elvis Costello, and then they supported the Who, you know. And they still didn't have any hits. You know, they must have played in front of thousands and thousands of people. And then they went to America and they supported Joe Jackson. That album actually got in the top 200 in America. But as far as I'm aware, it did absolutely nothing in the UK. The band split and went on to form a band called It's a Material, who had a hit in the 80s called Driving Away From Home, which is it's a favourite of mine. I love that song, but it's just like a one-hit wonder. And then a guy from the band then went and joined the Christians, who were quite a big band in Britain in the late 80s. So the career went from supporting the Sex Pistols, Elvis Costello, the Who, Joe Jackson in America, and they still couldn't have a hit. I mean, the album, it's the kind of album that when I was about 15 I would have loved, because it's just full of sort of crappy songs that are kind of guitar based, throwaway lyrics. It's nothing. I mean, I'm listening to it now and I'm going to keep it. You know, it's an album that I've played quite a few times and I'm going to continue to play, because I think there might be quite a good little album in there somewhere. But yeah, I was really amazed with the history of the Yachts, and yeah, I was really pleased to pick that up. He had it at £6, but I managed to get it for a £5, so I was quite happy. So it has a free single with it as well, which doesn't look like it's ever been played. So yeah, so that's the Yachts. Now the same guy had this album, which is Peter Gabriel Plays Live. Now, quite recently, I've really got into Peter Gabriel. He's an artist the word I would use is I've always kind of respected him, and I've never really been into Genesis, but the way I'm getting into Peter Gabriel now, I'm thinking I need to check out a bit of Genesis, the early Genesis, because I'm kind of really getting into Peter Gabriel. And I saw this live album. He had it priced at £12, but I got it for a tenner, so I was quite happy with that. I've not actually played it yet, but you know, it's got it's not really got any of his big hits, but I mean, he's only had a few hits anyway. It's kind of Salisbury Hill, Biko, which I love Biko, and yeah, I was really pleased to pick this up for a tenner. Yeah, Peter Gabriel. I can remember in '79 I would have been like 13, 14. I always liked Games Without Frontiers. great single. So yeah, it's very nice vinyl. Doesn't look like it's ever really been played, so for a tenner I was well happy with that. So that's Peter Gabriel, double album. And the same guy then had this album, Mr. Joe Jackson. Now this is his kind of a jive album. It's called Jumping Jive, so it was only £2. So I mean the cover's needs a bit of repairing. But Joe Jackson's another one of those artists that, yeah, he can't do any wrong for me. I really like him. But at the time, I remember this came out in maybe 81, 82. At that time, I was like heavily into the jam and that kind of music, and there was no way I was going to buy Jumping Jive by Joe Jackson. So I just left it alone, and it's taken 40 years for me to get that album. And that's another album not played yet, but I know what to expect, and I'm pretty excited. I'm going to play that this afternoon. So yeah, I'm getting into this album. It's superb. Osibisa, brilliant. So yeah, Joe Jackson, £2, well happy. Now, the last album I'm going to show you is an Amazon buy. Now, I buy albums from Amazon quite regularly, but I only really buy what I would class as like a new albums from Amazon. I won't go, if there's an album that's from 20-30 years ago, I'm pretty reluctant to buy it from Amazon. I'd rather try and find it in the wild or just in record shops in general. But if there's something that's reasonably new, I'll get it from Amazon. Now, the album I bought is this one. Now, they're a band called Two Door Cinema Club, and I'm not sure I've ever seen anyone talk about Two Door Cinema Club, so I'm going to change that today. 3 guys from Northern Ireland, and I'm a bit shocked when I got it, 'cause it's on white vinyl, which is very nice. Now, there's a bit of a story with Two Door Cinema Club. I've got a son he's now 23, he's called Alex, and like any good dad, I really brainwashed him when it comes to music. The first gig he ever went to when he was about 9 was the Beach Boys. I was playing Beach Boys in the car all the time, and he ended up being a Beach Boys fan, age 9. And I took him to see kind of the Al Jardine, Mike Love, Bruce Johnson, and a fantastic array of musicians just creating the Beach Boys sound. And yeah, he loved the Beach Boys. And then I just used to do compilation tapes in the car, Cool for Cats and Up the Junction and jam stuff, and he really got into music of that era. But then as he got into being a teenager, he started to reject me, and he wanted to find his own music. He didn't want his dad telling him what music was good. So, I'd play Radiohead in the car. He didn't like it. I mean, he's a massive fan now. I'd play Arcade Fire in the car. Don't like it, Dad. He wanted to find his own music. And he came to me one day when he was about 14, and he was going on about this band called Two Door Cinema Club. He wanted to tell his dad about a band, and we ended up going to see him. Now, of course, he was with his friends, but I really got into Two Door Cinema Club. That debut album, I think it came out in 2010, and every track on that album is a good track. If you're not aware of them, they're kind of like it's like everything I'm into, indie pop kind of thing, and it was a real popular album in the UK, and I mean, they toured around Europe, did the festivals circuit. Subsequently, they've done a couple of albums. I've got the CDs. Are they as good as this album? No, but yeah, I mean, I'd recommend you to check this album out if you don't know it. Say it's called Tourist History. Got some great tracks on it. What You Know, Cigarettes in the Theatre, Undercover Martin. I mean, it's an album full of great tracks, and yeah, I picked it up from Amazon for about £18. So, that's about the top I want to pay on Amazon for an album, because some pretty good deals on Amazon recently. But yeah, I was happy to pick that up. So that's my video for today. I'm sure tomorrow I'll go looking for more vinyl. Seems to be what I seem to do on Sundays. But I hope you enjoy this video. If you have, please subscribe and have a good day. Bye.